Hello, viewers, and greetings, fellow space travelers. This is Thorn of Night, and welcome to my mod guide for the Minecraft mod Big Reactors by Erogenous Beef. And there are a few things that I want to cover in this. Oops, I hit the wrong key. There we go. First off, I'm going to start with the blocks, and then I'm going to go on to some of the tricks and other information that isn't readily accessible or intuitive with the construction of your reactors. And then I'm going to finish off with probably a bang, but we'll see. It'll be a surprise. I have something built that I want to test, and I'm going to do it on camera for you guys. But basically what this mod does is it adds some functionality for you to create reactors that will provide RF power, redstone flux power, and they can be built any size and dimension as long as it's a rectangular box type shape. You can't have circle ones, but you can see some of them off in the distance there. But before I get over there, let's start with what you need to know as far as the World Gen stuff. It does add something to World Gen, and it is this block here called Yellowite ore. And it can be mined with diamond, gold, iron, stone, and yes, even wood. So you have a lot of options there early on for your gathering purposes. But once you have the ore, there are a couple of things you can do with it. One, you can just outright smelt it. And when you smelt it, here, let's go ahead and turn that on. If you smelt a block, it will turn into one yellorite or yellorium ingot. I cannot talk today. Or if you run it in a pulverizer, instead of just getting one blob, you can get two. Or if you happen to have the Applied Energistics mod installed, you can take some of it and pop it in a grinder, and after, I think, let's see here, 8 turns, 4 turns. Alright, you will get 2 yellorium dust. But the yellorium dust, once you toss it in a furnace or some sort of smelting device, each dust will turn into an ingot. So that's a way to double your ingot production. And I seem to have, there we go, I couldn't get out of the interface. Moving on, another thing that is added is functionality for coal. You can take coal, put it into a furnace, and smelt the coal to get this stuff called a graphite bar. And it works with both coal, just regular normal coal that you mine. There you go, some graphite bar. Or charcoal, so you can cook trees to get the graphite bar. It's a little bit cheaper this way, and you have a lot more of it available at the surface from the get-go. Anyway, now we get to move on to the actual, I keep lagging out. Oh, that is so weird. What's going on? Hello. Any second now, something's happening. What is going on? Well, I don't know what just happened there, but it seems to have resolved itself. That was very weird. Anyway, as I was saying, now we get to move on to the actual constructed blocks of this map, and there are a few of them, and all of these things are used in the construction of the reactors. Let me go ahead and make it morning again. The first one here is called the reactor casing, and this is what it looks like. It's just a solid gray brick there. And in order to craft it, you're going to need 4 iron ingots, 4 of those graphite bars, and 1 yellorium ingot, and that will get you 4 reactor casing. Next up is the reactor glass, and you can see it here. And you need one of the reactor casing and 2 glass. So it's a good way to double the structure for what you're building. You can double up on the usage of the reactor casing and kind of reduce your cost there. The next one is the yellorium fuel rod, and you can see it here, and this is used inside of the reactors for storing the fuel. And the recipe for that is 6 ingots, 2 graphite, and another yellorium ingot, and that will get you 1 fuel rod. Next up is the reactor control rod. This goes on the very top of your reactor, on top of any stacks of fuel rods that you have, and that's what it looks like there. And it costs 4 of those casings, 3 graphite, a redstone, and another yellorium. Next up is the reactor controller, and this is how you interact with the reactor itself, turning it on and off and changing some settings. One thing I do need to note, the reactor control rod, just placing it, you get a GUI for naming it, for controlling how much of a percentage of the fuel rods you have active, and once you get everything the way you want, you hit set and you're done. But the reactor controller, if you try to interact with it before you have a completed multi-block structure, it'll say not enough control rods, reactors require at least 1. It's talking about that thing there. But the reactor controller is the most expensive of them because it will cost you a diamond. But it also needs 2 of the yellorium ingots, 1 redstone, and 4 of those casing, and that'll get you 1 controller. Next up, we have the reactor access port, and as you can see here, it's got that little thing on both sides. If you try to interact with it before it is part of a reactor, it'll just give you that same message, and I'll show you the utility of it when we get down over that way. But the reactor access port is going to cost you a piston, a chest, and 4 of those casings to get 1 of them. Next up is the reactor power tap, and this is how you're going to get your juice out of your reactors. And it has access on all 4 sides, so there isn't any directionality for this. But I should mention there is one addendum to note for all of these exterior blocks here that are not the casing. They cannot be in the frame, and I'll go over that in a minute. They cannot be on the top of the structure, except for this guy here, the reactor control rod, and they cannot be on the bottom. So only the construction things down there at that end can be on the outside for the actual frame of the reactors. But anyway, the power tap is going to cost you 4 redstone and 4 of those casings to get 1 of them. Next up, we've got the reactor redstone port, and this adds some functionality for interacting with either sending or receiving a redstone signal, and the recipe for that is the 4 redstone, a casing, or 4 of the casings, and this time a gold ingot to get 1 of them. And the interface has let's see here, 8 different things that you can work with, and you can see the first 3 here say input and the rest of them say output. And what that means is if the signal, if you have one of these set and you can only choose 1 per each of these ports that you install, if you have redstone signal coming into this block, it will toggle it on or off, set from signal, toggle on pulse, and those are the 2 options for that. We've got the change control rod insertion. That's that thing that I mentioned off to the left over there for controlling what percentage of the fuel rod is actually active. And by sending in a power, it'll say while the power's on, it's this much, and while it's off, it's that much. And once again, you can set from signal or insert on pulse, and there's a little mode thing there. Whoops. Next up, we have the eject waste. Now, I'll get to what that means in just a moment, but you can only eject on pulse is the only option that I've seen come up even when it's installed, so I think this is just a hard thing. When you get a pulse, it'll just eject the waste. Next up, we've got the temperature control. It will deactivate the reactor or activate it depending on your temperature and whether it's above or below the temperature that you set there. And the temperature can go up pretty high, and obviously it goes down to 0. The maximum temperature, I honestly don't know yet. I've had it way over 2,000 already, and by the end of the video, hopefully we'll find a new limit. But let's continue with this. So we've got the fuel mix control, and what that says is how much of the fuel is enriched versus spent, and there's a percentage, and you can interact with it while it's either above or below that percentage. Next up, the fuel amount, same sort of thing, above or below, and it will send out a signal to let you know whether it has reached that, and that's measured in millibuckets, which is important to note. I will also demonstrate what that means here in a minute. The waste amount, also in millibuckets, and it will send out a signal if it is your criteria here, above or below. And lastly, the amount of energy that it's putting out, it will send out a signal whether it's above or below the amount of energy that it can put out by percentage. And the percentage amount is kind of weird. I don't fully understand why they have a percentage and not an actual hard value, but I guess there's a reason for it. It would make sense if it was a hard value, because the reactors put out a different amount of energy based on what all you have in them. But that is the redstone port. Next up, we have the reactor rednet port, and once again, it's one of those blocks that you can interact with, but it requires having a fully assembled reactor in order to work with. And this interacts with the rednet system. So if you are familiar with that and want to fiddle around with it, cool beans. I honestly have not messed with rednet, so I really don't know all that much about it. But it's going to cost you 4 of the casing, another gold ingot, and 4 rednet cables, and that's from Mine Factory Reloaded, or MFR for short. Next up, we have the Reactor Computer Port, and it, as it would appear, it interacts with computers, and there are a lot of commands that you can use to interact with the reactor, and I will provide a link to the best list that I've seen so far, describing all of the different functionality of that. But that allows you to interact with computers, and the recipe for that is 4 rednet casing, 2 redstone, 2 gold ingots, and 1 of those reactor redstone ports from over there. And lastly, the final block that you can build in this mod is the cyanite reprocessor. Now, what this does is it deals with the output of waste from your reactors. You put in the yellorium for fuel, and it outputs this stuff called cyanite. Real quick, the recipe for that there, it's going to cost you a yellorium fuel rod, 4 casings, 2 pistons, redstone, and an iron to get one of these. And there are several sides that you can work with, the back, the bottom, left, right, and top, and you can set them to interact with either the input on the left here, the red, so you can set it to red. You can have it to set to accept input from any side. The output, which is green, likewise you can set it for that, and it also is going to need some sort of water source being pumped into it, and you can set the side that it will accept water from over here as well, and the bare template is just blank. But the way this works is you put in 2 cyanite, and you will get out 1 plutonium, and plutonium is an equal fuel to the yellorite, or yellorium rather, and it will just as easily power your reactor. However, it is halved because it takes 2 cyanite in order to make 1 plutonium. So when you run a stack of yellorium through a reactor, you will get 64 cyanite back, but that will only turn into 32 plutonium. And likewise, once you run that, you'll get 32 waste and 16, 8, and 4, 2, 1. So for a total of 127 fuel out of 1 stack of yellorium. So for 32 of these, you can get 60 or 127 fuel units, which is kind of nice there. But it is nighttime, so let's make it daytime again. Now, I'm going to put some of this stuff to use and show you, first off, the construction of the absolute most basic and cheapest, as far as I can tell, optimally functioning reactor. Now, I have down here at the bottom the list of all the raw materials that you are going to need in order to make this. I guess I could have used sand instead of glass for raw material, but you get the point. You're going to need 3 logs, and from that you'll get 11 planks. You will have 1 spare after you have finished building all these things up here. You'll need 4 cobblestone, and that's for making the piston. You'll need 45 coal for making the graphite bars. You'll need 24 iron, and don't forget to smash it so you get 2 dust each, because you're going to need 47 iron ingots. You'll need 2 glass, 7 redstone, a diamond, and 14 of these yellorium ingots, or 7 of the yellorite ore. But let's go ahead and move this stuff up here and grab these so I can show you the most basic structure. You are going to need to have something on the bottom, and this reactor glass counts perfectly as a wall for any of the surfaces, but the actual frame has to be made out of these reactor casings, and the frame is, whoops, well, that didn't help any. Let's grab that back. There we go. The frame is designed like this. A hollow frame with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the middle, 7 spaces that you can fill. So I'm going to put the reactor glass in the back here. I'm going to put the reactor, what's it called, controller on the left, so we have a way to access it. On the top, I'm going to put this reactor control rod, and that is going to go above the yellorium fuel rod. Then over here, I'm going to have the reactor power tap so we can access some power. And then finally, the reactor access port. And you can see once you have successfully built one, it automatically snaps into a multi-block structure. Now, I said that the reactor access port has a GUI to interact with. Let's go ahead and look at that here. You can have it set, by default, it is set to in for the receiving. You can change that to out, it'll turn blue, but even when it is on one setting, it will still output or input from or output to that same one if there's only one port to work with. And this is where your fuel goes. But let's real quickly turn this on. You turn it on by activating it, and you can shut down. It hasn't warmed up or anything. There's no fuel to work with. You can also set the waste management. It can be set to auto eject, and what that means is it will automatically spit things out in there. And you can auto replace, and the waste management can be manual, and when it's set to manual, you come up here, you click eject, and then it will spit out the wasted fuel. Now I need to get up on top here, so let's just go ahead and use this to hop up. There we go. Just in case I fall off. Finally, the block here, the reactor control rod, will allow you to set it to have a certain amount of the rod in place, maximum or minimum 100 to 0. And once you have it changed, and you can type in a name and set it, and it is now set as but let's go ahead and grab the leadstone energy cell. What just happened there? Oh, I hit the sort button. Whoops. Now it's all scrambled. There. And I will go ahead and plug that here. As you can see, it's not receiving any power yet, and that's because it doesn't have any fuel. Now, the fuel, and I left a window back here so we can see this. Inside, you can see the fuel rod, and it looks like it is completely see-through and empty, and that's because it is. But let's come over here and toss in some yellorium. You saw it automatically vanish. And when it did that, you can see that it filled up some of the fuel rod in there. And, well, this was poor planning. There we go. And you can see that it says 25% full. Each fuel rod can accept 4 of the ingots. Now, it also accepts the rotary craft nether uranium and the regular rotary craft uranium as fuel. You can see it slurping it up there. And as you can see, it is fuller looking. When it is completely full, the entire fluid area is filled up and you can't see through it. And you can see it says 75% full there. Now, right now, it is not storing any energy. And that's because it is successfully outputting to here. As you can see, it's very low, but it is outputting. And the other stats that you can see are the fact that it is only putting out 3.4 RF, which is basically a third of a Minecraft rule, or MJ. And the heat is at 0 degrees Celsius. It's putting out just a trickle. But if I go ahead and let's add one more fuel to this. Oh, wrong side. If I put that in there, it fills it up, and you can see that it goes up to 4.5 RF. Now, the temperature is not changing, and that is because I have it set up here to 90%. Now, if I set it to 100%, it completely cools down. But if I crank it all the way up to maximum, you can see the temperature steadily climbing. And you can see that at maximum, it puts out 40 RF, or 4 MJ. Not much, but it's enough to run your toothbrush, probably. No, you could probably run a pulverizer or halfway run a pulverizer and a redstone furnace off of it. It's not a lot of energy, but it is some, and you can see over here it's actually outputting a little bit more quickly. But that is the most compact and simple and complete successfully power outputting reactor. And you can use this to get started. Like I said, it takes very few resources there to get going, and you can get this going pretty early on. And the more interesting thing about it is if I grab this over here, which I forgot to put in my inventory, you can keep expanding this. And one interesting thing to note, as soon as you attach another block that is a reactor block from this mod to it, it doesn't matter if you attach a non-reactor block, but since you attach any other reactor block, it disables the multi-block structure and it automatically shuts off the machine. Where did it go? Oh, I picked it up. You can see that it is shut off and it is starting to cool down. You have to reactivate it when you do that. but you can use that functionality to shut it off and expand it. Now, over here, I have one that has been running for a while. I have some waste in it, and you can also see that I have the cyanide reprocessor attached to it. The reprocessor has the water input, the power. It does need to be powered. I did forget to mention that. It needs power. And I have the output slot there, the input slot, and this is so I can power the water for the fluid duct there. And that's the item duct that also needs power for outputting as far as I understand. But right now I have it set to manual waste ejection. And just to show you, I have one cyanide ingot in there, but let's go ahead and eject. And you can see the quantity went down. Let's get back over here. It's going to come through the pipe, I hope, any second now. This is just regular item duct, so it might... Oh, there we go. 2 of them went in here, and so it's going to say, oh, here's 2. Let's make a plutonium. And that plutonium is going to end up in here. If we watch carefully, it will just probably blink for a second, or for a split second, and then start fueling it. I don't know how long it takes to travel through the pipe. I don't want to sit here all day. But let's see here. No, it already went through. Oh well, we missed it. Alright, now some more information that you'll need to know. First off, the plutonium versus the yellorite. You can see this one I have the yellorium in it, and if I power this on, I have 4 rods in there, and it shows the fuel rods. And you can see they're all 4 in the corners, but there's also water in here, and I will get to that in a moment. But the way I have it set up with the 8 tall stack, so the entire structure is 10 tall, the way I have it set up right here, it will get to hover roughly around, I don't know, about 1600 RF when it's at full enriched fuel. And it will climb up to, I think, about 1200 degrees, something like that. But you can see it waggling around that 1600 mark. And it will just crank away, and that's how much it's putting out. So that amounts to about 160 MJs. And this one I have, whoops, where'd it go? I thought for sure I had some spare plutonium in there. This one I am running on plutonium. I'll go ahead and activate that, and it will crank up to that 1600 mark. It might go a little higher and a little lower while it's warming up, but both of these are the exact same design, so you can see that it gets to pretty much the same power output for the yellorite or yellorium and the plutonium. All right, next. This is the exact same setup, except now I have water on all 4 sides of each of the columns. Here I only have it on 2 sides, the 2 inside ones, and it doesn't matter for the diagonal waters. It only matters on the surfaces of the fuel rods. So if I activate this, it will rapidly climb to about 1800. So same setup of fuel rods, just more water because it is staying cool. Actually, it might crank up to 1900, looks like. But the water usage in these things, as long as you have it completely surrounded by water, it will function better. So you will need a little bit more space than just the basic one if you want to get a little more juice out of it. All right, this next one here, I have just 1 fuel rod in it, but everything else in here is water. If I kick this on, the 1 fuel rod will go to about 450 RF. So it doesn't matter on the size, because this one here is also 1 fuel rod. It's going to be a little lower than 450 because I don't have any water, but not much lower. It's about 350. So the actual size doesn't come into play. Only the fact that the fuel rod is surrounded by water. And here I have just another regular single one at full power, and you can see it goes up to 40, 45 maximum, just like the demo one I have over there. This one, let me go into cheaty face mode. I have one fuel rod, but water on two sides of it. So instead of 45, we get, or instead of 40, we get 45 up to 50. And then this is the same thing, one fuel rod in there. Let's, auto eject? No? Why is it blue? Oh well. That's kind of strange. I don't know why it's got the blue in there. But this will also get to about 45. Actually, it stabilizes a little higher when it's gotten rid of the auto eject. Right there. Is that going to do it? No. I don't understand why it's not ejecting. Anyway, sometimes it does bug out. All right, and this is a demonstration where I have two of the same arrangements surrounded completely by water. This is just one level, and this is two levels of the same orientation. And we have about 280-ish for that. And this one should be about 560. There we go, 570. So as you can see, it does double the amount instead of some sort of exponential growth. It is just stepped. And just because I wanted to see if I could make a really big one and see what would go wrong with it, I decided to make this. It has 9 fuel rods, no water in it whatsoever, and it is 21 tall on the inside. And I don't know why it's yellow up there, but that's just a graphical bug. If I kick this baby on, we have power output of, let it stabilize. Well, first off, it's going to heat up really quick, and it will climb to over 2,000. I think it stabilizes at right around 4,500-ish for the power output. Might be 3,500. But right off the bat, you can get a huge boost of power. There it is, about 3,600, 3,500. And that's 21 tall. Now, I said I was going to do something really big at the end of the episode that might be disastrous, or it might be really awesome. Who knows? I wanted to see if these things blow up. That's why I built this. And that's why I built the protective wall back there. But this one didn't blow up, and it just works fine. Okay, so 3,100. My bad. And it does output pretty quickly when it's running a whole bunch. So what I did in order to test this was build this monstrosity. The inside is 25 by 25 by 25. All fuel rods. And it is, as you can see, a complete multi-block structure. You can make these however big you want. And it took me a while to fill in the fuel. I think it's something like 62,500 ingots worth of fuel, and I have some spare fuel in there. But this is either going to lag me to death or blow up, or it will just work properly. But let's see here. Oh my. Well, you saw it went almost up to 1,000,000 RF to start, and the temperature is climbing ever so steadily. Not a whole lot of lag, a little bit. I don't recommend this on a lower end computer, but this looks like it's going to crank out 10,000 MJs or 100,000 RF a tick. You could see how quickly that filled up the 10 million RF buffer. But let's see here. 80,000. But clearly it's not blowing up. It's working properly. So You do not need to add water to it. Oh my. That doesn't look healthy. Wow. I wonder if that's a graphical bug or if that's overheating. I don't think it's overheating, but this is the last experiment. Oh dear. All right. Let's go into just normal survival mode. Nope, no temperature, no pain. So it didn't explode. There's a little bit of lag. Okay, a lot of bit of lag. But interesting. Okay. And it's still plummeting a little bit, but the temperature is going to probably breach 5,000. Yep, there we go. And who knows how hot it will get. But that will output a lot of energy. So you can use this, apparently, explosion-free as a mod for generating power. Neat. It did not explode. I'll never make one that big, probably, but I am definitely going to design things based on my discovery there. But that will have to conclude this guide and tutorial for using the Big Reactors mod. I will be leaving a link to the wiki, the computer port interaction page for the GUI for the Lua code for that, as well as the download for this from the Roger's Beef's website. But now that it's going to start raining, I would like to say thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below or message me on Twitter, and I will do my best to respond as quickly as possible. If you like this video and you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to give me a like. I do appreciate that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you know when my future stuff comes out. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here, so thank you once again for watching. This is Thorn of Night, and I will talk to you later.